And we are live. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. Your host, Robert Michiels. So glad that you are here. You have found the best place to come and talk about paragliding, all things flying. Tonight, we have a special guest who is somewhere in the Netherlands or Netherworlds. Jeff Goin is going to be with us tonight. Just messaged him, trying to work out the kinks. He might be in a place where he doesn't have great reception, so we're gonna give him some time to get logged in. If he doesn't make it, we got all kinds of things that we're going to cover tonight. So glad that you're here. We're also joined by Ethan Vance, who is thermaling over Blossom as we speak. We also have the founder and owner of Pararorange products. Larry is with us tonight. We also have Sean. He's our moderator and the giver away of all things. Sean is with us tonight, and we are actually very blessed. We're going to have a great show tonight. So glad that you're here. If you're just now logging in, you are in the right place tonight. Paragliding.com. Okay, order of business. Let me just pull this up for viewing pleasure. There's a bunch of people that sponsor this show, and I'm just going to quickly read these guys off because they are very near and dear to me. This show is brought to you by Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden runs a PPG school in Nebraska. If you're interested in getting top-notch training, you can reach out to him. He's in the process of putting together a website so that you can get a hold of him. In the meantime, there's a link in the description. You can reach him on Facebook. If you're in that area of town and you want to get some good training, go to Nebraska PPG. Resurgence PPG is a sponsor of this show. Great organization. Todd Scandrett created Resurgence to help our veterans get their feet off the ground. He is a 501c3, so your donations and contributions are tax deductible. And so if you'd like to support the cause, go to resurgencepppg.com. Show is also brought to you by Mike Cotter and flymyppg.com. If you're anywhere in the Michigan area, you're interested in powered paragliding, reach out to Mike Cotter and the guys at flymyppg.com. Show is also brought to you by Pararorange products, paragliding products for parapilots by parapilots. Go to pararorangeproducts.com for all of your paragliding needs. And if you have any questions, you can ask Larry in the chat live and after. If you're watching the show afterwards, there's a lot of people that do, and that's fine too. Ask me in the questions. I'll make sure I forward the information over to Larry. PPGsmoke.com sponsors this show as well. The new smoke machine designed by Ryan Roberts. Check out what's going on with the new cutting-edge technologies for the future of motoring and free flight paragliding. It's got smoke machines, floats, lamels, chase cams. I think he's going to keep going too. There's all kinds of cool stuff that he's created and engineered and put to market, and he's not doing it necessarily for some big money thing. He just does it because he loves the sport. So go check out ppgsmoke.com. Show is also brought to you by the Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, reach out to Brandon McCloud on Facebook. The Tri-State Skywalkers Flying Club's aim is to help out locals with friendship and organization and flying safe. If you're interested in starting a local club, you can reach out to Brandon. You can ask him right here in the chat. Brandon is one of the moderators of the show. And again, if you ask any questions after the show, feel free. I will just drop that message in the chat, and I will get it to him. Or not in the chat, but in the comments. The show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, no better place to get the proper training than iflyindiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. Check out iflyindiana.com. So appreciate the sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, reach out to me in the links in the show, paraglidingtalk.com. You can also support the show on Patreon and PayPal. I really appreciate all the Patreons. You guys rock, and you keep the show going. Ethan is where I would be right now if it wasn't for you. So I appreciate all the Patreons and PayPal supporters and the sponsors. You guys rock. All right. I'm trying to hone that in and bring that back in a little bit. How you guys doing tonight? You know, does anybody know Mike Sills? Mike S in the chat? Check out what he made. So he sent this to me, and by the way, I got a PO box if you're interested in sending over prototypes and things like that, or something that you want to have tested in the air. But he made this thing, goes on the top of a pole. I believe it's 7/8 inch ID. It might be half inch if you're not in the air conditioner world. Steve Parker, thanks, brother. Appreciate your investment. And he said somebody said it's a pipe bomb. It actually goes on the top of your windsock, and so that the windsock doesn't get tangled at the top of the pole. So we're going to give one of these away tonight. This is 3D printed. So if you're interested in getting one of these, you can reach out to Mike, or you can just hang out with us tonight. Some point during the show, we're going to give this out. Pretty excited about that. There's some other things that I wanted to talk about too. Is did somebody say Todd's in here? Resurgence PPG? I sent him an invite. I'm wearing the Resurgence shirt, by the way, tonight. Represent. Welcome. Yay. So it looks magical over at Blossom, and Ethan is making this really hard for me. I need to put a piece of tape over where his screen is. He's literally outside my window. I should turn the radio on and talk to him. All right. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, and I know that we talk about site preservation quite a bit, but this is kind of fresh. There's a conversation that's happening in one of the threads right now. And I'm not going to read all the details, but I wanted to talk about it just for a minute. And while we'll give Jeff a chance to log in, we've got this. It's a push-pull situation, and I'll give you an example. There's a landowner that has a piece of property, and for years people have been flying and they use this guy's piece of property to land, and they park their cars there while they're flying. So they'll many times park in this lot, and it's a rather large piece of property, and there's a nice green area where you can land and put your stuff away. And the guys will drive up the mountain and take some flights and even take some tandems, and they have a business there. And so anyways, the rubber meets the road. A few of the pilots, after flying, went into the business, and they were conducting themselves with a lack of respect. And they crossed some lines, apparently, with these landowners. And the landowners said, you know what, I don't appreciate the way that you pilots are acting. And we don't want you using our landing zone anymore. And you can't park there anymore. And they made some exceptions, but they cited that the pilots were acting a certain way, and they didn't like that, and so they shut it down. And I made the statement in this conversation, in which I was pretty hot when I wrote the letter. So if I came off too brash, it was posted in the banter section. Okay, but we as individuals have a responsibility to carry ourselves in such a way that we don't screw it up for someone else. And this is something that we always say. It's something that we always talk about, especially on this show. And I know in Paramotor Nation, they talk about it a lot as well. We have an obligation to kind of manage within who we are, right? How you act, how you treat landing zones, how you treat the people, the landowners, or even the locals. And one of the things that came up in this conversation, a restaurant that has nothing to do with the LZ, other than it's a part of the community, message got back to the owners of the property of the LZ, and it didn't help our case. They associated the rude behavior with the flying community, and it tainted our look at Ethan went back to El Cap. Unbelievable. So anyways, you're killing me, Ethan. How do I unmute him? I know he wants to. Hold on just a second. I got to go to the, how do I do it? Oh no.
I
There
got
it
you,
is.
Robert.
Okay. Were you gonna?
I don't mean to rub it in too much, but it's really nice out here. Yeah, I'm back at El Cap now.
Okay. All right. Back on mute. You go. Right back to mute. Did Did you have something that you wanted to say? I thought I saw your lips moving earlier.
No, I was just laughing at what you were saying about
Okay.
me.
Okay. All right. Putting you on mute again.
All right.
It's freaking horrible. So, anyways, back to what I was getting. It made it a lot harder for them to renegotiate and get back what the our I don't know if we want to say contract or whatever it is, the relationship that we had with the landowner. And so here's something that I wanted to just present to everyone. And I don't think that there's any landowners in here that are shutting down sites, or nor do I think they care to watch the show. But I will say this to them, the people, if you're trying to preserve sites, you need to offer them stuff. If it's money, offer them money. Tell them you'll pay them to use that spot. If you can't afford that, or maybe you don't have a club and you can't afford to give them money, offer services. And most importantly, you can offer something that is very simple. It's respect and praise. And I was thinking about this as we were putting this together. If you will be a people, if you will be a person with respect, it's almost impossible for people to be rude to you and shut you down and turn you away. We're doing something that's so, I mean, literally, you can land on a dandelion and barely knock the seeds on the ground. I mean, we're tiptoeing through the tulips when we land most of the time, and we put away our paragliders. I can't speak for hang gliders, but it's pretty much the same. And I mean, really, there's no damage. There's nothing. We're like butterflies, man. I mean, big deal. We fly off a mountain. But yet time and time again, I'm getting this response from people when they shut down an LZ, or like we're this, you know, tyrannical people. So, anyways, when I first read that article, I was a little bit irritated because I'm thinking, here we go again with, you know, this slant against pilots. Oh man, see, learn how to control yourselves, learn how to have good character. Yeah, we need that. We need that. Control yourself and respect. But most importantly, offer something. The reason why capitalism works is because you have something to offer, and something you're going to give something to get something. Okay, that's my rant. Any questions or comments?
No, you make a really good point. It's really hard for some people to learn respect, I've noticed.
Seriously.
It is tough because we've had issues at RLZ with people. And, you know, when you say something to someone who's being irresponsible that you fly with all the time, or you've flown with occasionally even, it's hard to have that conversation without them being offended. And that's something I really struggle with, because if we see that behavior, how do we approach them, or how do we say something to them without them being offended by, you know, the comment, hey, you don't need to be flying like that over there, or don't fly over those houses. Remember that?
Yep.
Everybody thinks they know better and you don't, or you're spoiling their fun.
Yeah. Liability, somebody mentioned in the chat. Good point. There is a liability involved somewhere. And this is where I try to think common sense wise. Okay. And I know if it was common, everyone would have it, but it's kind of like, okay, you do something stupid. Let's say you end up getting tangled in power lines. Well, we have entities that will take care of that. We've got here in San Diego, it's SDG&E. They will come and they will turn the power off, and the fire department will come with a ladder and they'll get you down, and you're embarrassed. And that happens. It happens to people. Okay. And we have services for that. If somebody has a hard landing, breaks bones, they're not going to turn around and sue the person who owns the land because they didn't know how to land properly. And I get there's like this misconception, and I don't know enough about the the legal aspects of all this, so bear with my immaturity. But when it comes down to business, it's like, man, if somebody gets hurt in the sport, it's because they made mistakes, and we come into this sport knowing that it's a possibility. And so there are some documentation, there are some things that you can give to people. The USHPA has an incredible setup for pretty much anywhere in the United States. So their documentation, if you're watching this and you're somewhere else, they have all kinds of paperwork that you can take it from the United States Hang Gliding Paragliding Association website. I know that the San Diego Hang Gliding Paragliding Association has some documentation for landowners. If you're looking to try to find a new LZ, be proactive. And I know Ethan the other day, we were all concerned about one of our sites, and Ethan actually did some research, found out who the person was, and talked to him and got firsthand information, because there was a lot of just, there's a lot of talk about this and that, and this guy did this and that guy, and he said this, and we think that he's going to do this. Get firsthand information. And typically I recommend that you have the person who runs the club talk to the person, if you can do that. It is what it is. If you've got and there is some leverage with a club, and maybe if it's just 1 or 2 people in an area and you're flying off a mountain, whatever. Like my dad, he's in the chat right now. He purchased some property in Colorado, 60 acres, and it's a mountain. It's the side of a mountain. And I was thinking, oh man, that'd be cool if we can, cut in a launch and cut in an LZ. It's 60 acres, plenty of space, and it's a part of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range in Colorado. And so I'm thinking, who knows if there's a bunch of people. I've never been there, so I don't know. But realistically, that's in our cards, and we technically have a mountain, and we could have a site. And I'm just thinking, what would the drawbacks be about people flying there? Well, not much. If you're a landowner, you're looking for a few things. You're looking for respect. You're looking for people to respect your property and your possessions, and you're looking for something. So whether it's money or resource, I know for us, we take care of some sites. We take care of, like, we offer free, landscaping stuff where we'll clear the LZ or clear the launch. And anyways, I don't want to beat the drum too mad. Let me shoot a text to Jeff here. I wonder if he forgot about us. Jeff.
Well, it'd kind of be like the equivalent of putting your motor on and then taking a leak in someone's front lawn. You don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Nobody likes pee in their lawn, especially if you're wearing a paramotor, because then all of a sudden everybody that flies a paramotor pees in lawns, Yeah, don't be that guy,
Yeah, don't be that guy.
That'd be like, Robert, you let's say you go and you take a ride, you got somebody you're riding with, and you happen to hurl a burrito or two, don't hurl a burrito. Eat your burritos after.
Don't throw up your burritos on Saboba.
Be the burrito guy. You know what I mean? That would be the same as peeing in someone's lawn. You don't want to do that.
Actually, that was when I landed, I actually gave them a small bill for fertilizing, because I fertilized part of their property. So I was actually doing them a favor, because I didn't charge them.
Probably the tastiest tomato plants that ever came up.
They were spicy.
Right.
Oh man. Yeah, someone made Stan made a statement talking about group insurance, and going back here, he said, offer the landowners a release and indemnification to protect them from liability, makes them feel more comfortable in letting users site. And then Resurgence PPG made a statement. He said, in a number of instances, may not be the pilot bringing suit against the landowner, it may be their insurance company trying to recoup costs. So yeah, I'm not sure where we can get that information, but I assume that if you reach out to the right folks on the United States Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association, you can get what you're looking for those. Let's see, I just got a text. Nope. Yes. So glad you're here tonight, by the way. Really appreciate the guys. I met a few people today at Torrey Pines. That was pretty interesting. My brother said he wants his shirt. What size are you, bro? I got you. I'll make you a shirt. Oh, man. Ethan Vance came back. He's probably at the rock pile and there's no service. Limited service.
That's right. I'm at the
Rock pile?
not doing so hot at the rock pile.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm at the rock pile. Not doing so hot. I'm at 25. I'm probably gonna go back to LK.
Ooh. My brother's looking for a shirt, but
Oh, hiker Jim. Hi. You guys want to see the hikers?
You're saying hi to hikers?
They're on the trail right there.
It's like 85 degrees over there.
I need to turn around. See, that's my turnaround time.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm gonna mute you, Ethan.
Hey, Jeff Goin's here.
Jeff Goin.
Yeah, mute me.
All right, thanks, Ethan. Jeff Goin.
Hey,
You're here.
greetings. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh God, I have no excuse. What's really sad is that it flaked out. Today was really weird. I was supposed to embark on this big, long airplane-centered trip and then Oshkosh and the motorhome, and it all ended with a failed radio in the airplane. So,
Oh no.
yeah, it
Bad
was
radio.
actually somewhat of a comical series of events that I won't bore anyone with, but yeah.
Is that what you refer to as a comedy of errors?
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, there. Yeah, okay, yeah,
I get that all the time, you know.
yeah. Well, let me. One really quick. The funniest part of the story was, I use this airport. I live on an airport. There's 9 houses that have access to the runway, and I have probably done maybe 10 times more takeoff or landings than everybody else combined since I've been here. So it's soggy also. That's another story we won't get into, but I taxied the airplane out to the south end of the runway, and just as I was finishing up the checklist and I'd done the run-up, I looked at my phone, and there was a message from Tim saying, "Hey, Jeff, did you get my headset and seat cushion?" Now, mind you, we're about to start off on a several-month journey around the country.
Oh.
So I think to myself, doggone it, I'm sitting here, engine running, and then I realize, really, I gotta nobody's gonna land here. I mean, come on, nobody's landed here in forever. What are the chances? So I shut the airplane off and I ran into the house. But before I got very far away from the airplane, sure enough, I wish I could show you the picture. I heard it.
Oh no.
There was an airplane on base leg. It's like, really? Today? This morning? Right now? At this moment? Somebody's on base leg to land on this runway? And anyway, there wasn't anything I could do now. He's going to, turn base and he's going to see that there's an airplane on the runway. So I turned around and I took a picture. It's like, nobody's going to believe me. So pictures or it didn't happen. Yeah, well, I did get a picture.
Nice.
So anyway, that's it. That's all I'll bore you with. Non-paramotor little funny story.
That is hilarious. Well, I'm glad you made it. I apologize for not sending an invite sooner.
That's quite all right.
I should have gave you a reminder, and I normally do. So my fault.
No problem.
I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about. The first one was something that you had mentioned in a conversation with Brandon, and that's where I wanted to start. And talking about motors, paramotors, obviously, construction builds for safety. And this was something that you had brought up. So I'm going to give you the floor.
It's amazing to me. I'll have people, they'll say, "Hey, I'm designing this paramotor and I'd love for you to look at it." And they show it to me afterwards. Well, the time is kind of past for much input now, isn't it? But anyway, yes, there are a few things I would love to see. Number one, we know how people get hurt more than any other way in the sport, and that's prop injuries. Well, what can we do to help that? We know. And here's a simple test I would challenge manufacturers and pilots to look at. Take your hand, push against the prop, and push against the most vulnerable part of the cage. How hard do you have to push to touch the prop? On some machines, like mine, it's not very hard. Well, that's not good. So why not design it so that is hard? And one of the things I've done is added this safety ring, which is a simple thing that you can do, or a manufacturer could do, that goes in front of the spokes, you know, like on the mini plane in the center, the spokes go straight to the top in a V, and then they radiate outwards. Put the ring around in front of that, and that adds immense strength. It won't solve anything. All of these suggestions that I'm making won't solve the problem. They simply minimize it. It's like a lawnmower. You know how every lawnmower for the past, 1,000 years has had the safety device that you hold and the motor shuts off? Do you know why that is? It's because we chopped off a bunch of feet. There's a little thing at the bottom of the lawnmower in the back. And you know why that's there? Because we chopped off a bunch of feet. Yeah. And people got sued, and manufacturers found out that, hey, there's kind of a simple way that we can mitigate. Feet still get chopped off, but at a much lower rate. So why not build the machines? That ring, which is available, I don't make any money on it. I told Leon, I said, here's the idea. Let me test it. You build it, and I'll test it. I'll write about it on Footflyer, and I'll direct people to your website, because I want you to make money so that you are a manufacturer. You can keep selling them. And he does. Skycruisermanufacturing.com, I think, sells that safety ring. It can be added to a lot of motors. But wouldn't it be cool if every manufacturer made their paramotor so it could pass the hand test, which is put your hand on the prop and see that how much pressure it takes to touch the prop. Is that nearly full rated thrust? Is it half a full rated thrust? If it's easy to make, why not make it? At least offer it as an option. When you sell a machine, sell it with that safety ring on it. Make it look cool. I mean, Tesla figured out how to make what had previously been really kind of ugly electric cars. They made it cool. Well, make it cool, because chopped up hands and shoulders, they're not cool. It looks bad for the sport. It's frustrating for you, for your spouse, blah, blah, blah. So number one, improve that type of prop protection. And the next one also involves prop protection, and to its credit, Scout Paramotors has put one of these on their machine. It's Safe Start. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
It's
on the Scouts.
On the Scouts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I find out that a lot of people disconnect it, and that's because it's not completely passive. So Safe Start is a method of making it so that if the motor goes to power, it shuts it off. If you start within some number of seconds of start, so if you start the motor regardless of electric or pull start, and it goes suddenly to power, it'll shut it off within 7 seconds or some number. And then after that, now you can go to full power. The theory being, if you started it and it goes to full power, you probably didn't mean for it to do that. So Safe Start needs to, and the problem is why I think people disconnect them, is that a lot of motors is, and I know the maintenance people will say, if your motor needs throttle to start, there's a problem. That's true. But when you're out in the field and you want to go, or maybe not you, maybe you're disciplined enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to squeeze my throttle when I start it. I'm just not going to fly today. What number of people do you think that's going to happen to? Same kind of thing where, do y'all know about scooters in downtown areas? Big, risky thing is riding a scooter without a helmet. What does the Bird and the Limes of the world say about that? wear your helmet. I challenge you the next time you're in a downtown area to look and see how many helmets are on scooter riders. You'll find that number to be not far off of 0. So the reality is that a paramotor pilot who wants to fly, come on, we've all been there, especially look at yourself in the beginning of your paramotor career and think about if you were out in the field and had to squeeze your throttle a little bit to start it, would you do it? Probably. So reality is that people are going to squeeze their freaking throttles, and make it reality that if they do and the paramotor accidentally goes to power, it works. Now, on safe start, I mean, in other words, the safe start works for them. So the safe start needs to allow for that, so that if you start your paramotor and it goes maybe to half power, so it's pushing on you a little bit, but then it shuts off. Now it'll work. Now people won't disable safe start. They'll keep using it. They'll leave it on. And then the other thing about it is you shouldn't have to turn it on. Do you have to turn on that safety thing on the lawnmower?
Nope.
Nope. Do you have to turn on the little safety thing down at the bottom that keeps your foot from going into it? No, you don't. The only thing you have to do is show up for the show. You start your paramotor and it's on. How you do that electronically? I don't know. We used to be able to land a man on the moon. Hey, let's figure out how to make that work. And credit to Safe Start, to the Scout people for figuring it out. In edition 1, I hope somebody can come up with edition 2 that works reliably, that works in a way that people will not disable it. I'll bet my observation, and you can throw in your 2 cents, is that over half of all the propeller injuries happen during start. And of all the trips to the hospital, of all the different causes of trips to the hospital, I'm thinking, just an observation, that a quarter to a half, there's a lot of causes to go to the hospital, and a quarter to a half seem to be propeller injuries. So let's work on that. Manufacturers, let's do it. There's lawsuits out there. I know of a number of lawsuits. Well, this may help reduce them. All right. So propeller injuries, it's a big deal. The next thing, I'm a big fan of evidence-based understanding, whatever that is. It's like, hey, Jeff, if you're wrong about this, learn. And so I need to apply. If someone has something for me, hey, Jeff, either something you wrote, you said, you claimed, whatever, believe it based on the evidence. So, and I have had my ideas and my statements changed, but of course, there has to be evidence. So here's another one. We build paramotors and we listen to people and we observe. When on a number of paramotors, and as far as I can tell, it seems to be on most brands. And the problem is a popular brand, whatever it is, will get picked on. And there may be flaws in it. I'm not saying there aren't flaws, but those swing arms, about probably 9 out of 10 paramotors now sold have these moving swing arms, which is a brilliant system. The S arms, because of the geometry, that's a whole nother kind of cool subject, but you probably have to be a geek to appreciate it. But either way, when those swing arms let loose, it makes one riser go up a fair amount. And how far up it goes depends on the motor. Well, we know from what's happened that can be really dangerous. Well, fix that. That's really easy to fix. Number one, make it harder to happen. And number two, make it less impactful. That word could be used in a couple of ways. Yes, and I'll see people say, well, you know, that's not a big deal. That's like an 8-inch weight shift. Okay, that's true on most wings at most wing loadings. Let's say you're doing, how many of us will go into a 45-degree bank? A 45-degree bank isn't that much, but yet you're pulling in a 45-degree bank, you're pulling about 1.5 Gs. So if you and your rig weigh 300 pounds, you're now imposing 450 pounds on all of that mechanism. Well, that's going to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to make it easier to break. Number two, it's going to make it do more when it does break. So So put on a backup, and I think most of them have backups, but they don't give it much room. They give it too much room, and so that if that bolt breaks, the riser goes up maybe 8 to 10 inches instead of only 4 inches. Well, let's fix that. Put the thing in a simulator and with a slide out greased bolt, pull the bolt out and see what happens, or just disconnect it and see how far it goes. If you're on a small wing, I fly this 16-meter wing. I'm only 150, so 16 isn't really that small as it is for someone. Let's say someone that I weigh 150, someone who weighs 220. They can get the same result on an 18 or 19. And if I just do 2 weight shift turns, weight shift left, 1, and then as it starts coming back, coming around the bottom, weight shift 2, I can turn that into a 45, 50 degree wing over. And that's just 1 to the left. And then as it comes under, swing hard to the right. And now I'm in a, this. That's 45, 60 actually, because when it's starting to point towards the ground. That means that under heavy load, weight shift can do a lot depending on your gear. So that's the next thing. Another one, this gets into engineering things, and I don't know why. It's certain motors seem to have problems with certain components. And no paramotor manufacturer wants unreliability. But go to the competitor. If the competitor does something different, figure out, why does the exhaust not crack on that model? But on this model, it seems to be cracking all the time.
Right.
It might be a really good motor in so many ways, but it's got this one issue. Or from a few years back, many will remember the cracking coil. The funniest statement I've probably told before is about reliability, and now it's kind of the same story with a little different slant, and it's where one of the wires on the coil was coming off of it all the time. Well, fix that. I mean, and send the fixes out to the people, make it right. And it just seems like it would take a little bit of time to sort that out. And I realize that we are all test pilots, and the manufacturers are dealing with small numbers. We want a lot of power. We don't want it to weigh anything, and we don't want to pay anything for it. I have no problems understanding that, these things cost $3,000 because we don't have robots building. We have humans building. I'm fine with that. I get that. We need to appreciate the makers who are doing our bidding by letting us do whatever our thing is, and then we just lay out cash for them to do their thing that allows us to pursue our passion. That's cool. These are just some suggestions. All right, another one. All right, you see my hand here? Let me do something. Ceiling light. All right, see my hand? All right, picture this is the top of a paramotor viewed from the side. And what I'm doing for people who are doing audio is I'm curving my fingers. Pretend that the top of my curved fingers are the top of the paramotor. And I see this design sometimes. It looks cool. I owned one of these paramotors, by the way. And so that curve looks cool. But the problem is the netting on that paramotor goes between those curved spokes. And in between those curved spokes, it's flat. It's not curved. That puts the propeller really near the netting in those areas. And on some machines, you'll see where if they're going to have the propeller hit the netting, it's going to be there. And that also is a hand risk, but that's not what I'm getting at here. My objection to those is if the cage gets pulled against the propeller, because usually it's because the line's tension with abruptness, that's where it's going to hit. And you more frequently see nettings hit there. So if you're going to have a curved cage like that, realize that in between those curved radial arms, the spokes, it's a very vulnerable point for a propeller strike. The most likely time is on trikes or a forward launch. You see this happen where somebody does a forward launch and the wing comes up overhead almost. Doesn't quite get there. But the pilot, now freed of most drag, accelerates, throttles up, he accelerates, his body is moving, but unbeknownst to him, his wing is falling back. And when it gets into that power band, it pulls back with vigor, pulls his arms back, and pulls the cage right into the prop. And on a couple of these, it has not just damaged the cage, but it has pulled their hand back into the prop. So it's both a design issue of just equipment damage and the possibility of getting the hand in the prop. So those are the things that I can think of that I wish. Oh, another one. I'm sorry. Another one just came to mind. Pay attention to the thrust line. Now, here's something that I think most manufacturers have now done. And it's why the S-arm has become so popular, because it acknowledges the importance of thrust line versus hang point. Which brings me to the next one. I can't believe I thought of this last. Fix torque. You can fix torque. I have flown a couple of machines that don't torque. And I talked to one guy, and I don't remember who this was, who flew one of these machines. It was the Alex Varv machine. And all Alex did was, well, first, let's establish that if you have the risers here, picture a riser on your left hand and a riser on your right hand that you're holding out in front of you. You're holding these two hands right out in front of you. And they're roughly 2 feet apart, 24 inches. And I'm holding them in so that my camera can see them. Now, if your thrust line is exactly between those two, you basically get pushed forward straight, unless there's other factors like torque of a paramotor, and then you'll twist. Let's say that thrust is pushing on your left hand. Imagine thrust pushing on your left hand where the left riser is. So the thrust is pushing on the left riser. That riser is going to move forward. You're going to twist right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
If the thrust is off to the left and pushing on the left riser, you'll twist right. Okay? Well, let's say your paramotor, under normal circumstances, twists your body left. Just all the natural things happening. We don't need to get into them, but the result is your body twists left. And if you have a belt-driven machine, that's what it does. It twists your body left. Well, why not put the thrust line over on your left riser to counteract it? And that's all Alex did with his machine.
And it worked.
And it works brilliantly. I took off in this machine and I went to do my thrust test. I thought, I don't know which way this machine is supposed to twist. It's like, wait a minute, it's belt driven, right? So it should go to the left. And I could throttle that thing up. And you want to know whether the machine twists or not? Put a lightweight in that thing and tell him to go up and fly it at full power. A lightweight. Who do we have that's a lightweight? Oh, yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
Russman.
He's another lightweight. If it's going to twist on anyone, it's going to twist on Russman.
Bird bones.
Put that little, you know what, up, and you'll see what I mean. So, and you know how you can tell if it's twisting? It's really easy. Sit there, relax, go to full power, and look up at the wing. Just look up at the wing. If the wing is over like this, pointed to the right, guess what? Your body's twisted left, pushing the wing to the right. It has pushed you into a right bank. And it's really confusing. I've been in this confused situation where, wait a minute, my body's twisting left. Oh, yeah, the thrust is pushing me that way. The wing is going that way. Guess I better get off the power. I'm about to become a twisted sister. So I let off the power. Anyway, so that's one way to fix it. And, of course, the other way is these lamels, which seem to work pretty darn good. I've talked about this before. I looked at these little plastic things and thought, yeah, that looks a little sketchy. But I tried it, and it worked really well.
So the lamels need to be obviously well designed. I know that some guys have tried to 3D print them. You don't want something that's going to fall apart and go through the prop. That was my first instinct when I saw them. But there are some really good ones. And as a matter of fact, one of our sponsors, and I want to take a break real quick to give away something. Hey, Joel, appreciate your investment. Joel just gave $5 to the chat. Mike S made these. I'm going to give one of these away. Sean has a randomizer that he's going to use, and he's fixed the kinks. I know that Anthony Peregringo sent me a message.
Everyone check out Connor.
And what?
Here's Connor. Coming back from El Cap.
Nice.
Yeah,
We
bud.
finally got Connor on the
You're
show.
Oh, he's taking a leak right now on YouTube.
He's peeing right now. He's probably just draining his bowels.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. That's vulgar. I hope I don't have to put anything in the swear jar for that. It's a really nice day here. This is a secret spot in South Africa. No one come here. Don't post us on YouTube. Oh no, it's live in the corner.
It's live. Don't fly behind him, Ethan.
There he goes. He's on bar.
Oh man. So these guys are doing what I wanted to do today.
Pretty awesome. All right, well, we'll talk to you. I'll mute myself again. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah, so with the Wheel of Doom, now
The randomizer.
It's very hard to get every single person's name in without perhaps accidentally, if there's anything that goes wrong with the Wheel of Doom, I have to restart all over again and put everybody's name in again. So at times, I might accidentally put a name or two in extra.
Unacceptable.
But it is randomized, so it wouldn't matter if I had 13 billion of me and one of somebody else. Is still
the
random.
guy that won last week lives in Australia.
Hey.
It cost more to send it. Aaron, my wife just donated again.
You didn't buy her burrito, did you?
I'm gonna need counseling after this. So, anyways, we've got. We're gonna give one of these away. Mike made these on, and Mike's not selling them. He shipped them to the PO box. By the way, I have a PO box. If you want me to test something that you have, if it's safe, you want to send me something, you can do that. That link is in the description. But anyways, we're gonna give this away tonight, and I guess he can make more. I don't know if he wants to make more. But anyways, I've got one for sure right now to give away. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel.
Let's do this. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. I got to give the permissions and all that junk. Let's see here if it'll do it. Give me just a second here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, sure. Okay, there we go. All right, now you see my screen?
I can see it.
All right, you ready? Now, I've got everybody's name in here, and they are not copied twice. I've had to do it twice just to make sure that I didn't.
That seems like a lot of people.
Yes, and this is every single show, mind you. So I like to think that I do a good job, but, I might have slipped on one or two times. So here we go. We've got everybody. You ready to spin there, Robert?
Spin it.
Here we go. Let's see here. The Wheel of Doom. Paramotor Fly Girl.
Paramotor Fly Girl, congratulations. You win tonight. You win the, what are we calling this thing again? The
Spindle.
Windsock Spindle. Congratulations. So this will go on top of your deal, and it's got some, I call it engineering tape, but it's actually some, it looks like Pararorange products type stuff. What do you got for us, Larry?
First, it'd be great if I unmute. Want to say hello to Jeff. Jeff, we haven't seen you in a while. You're looking well.
Well, thank you.
Bag lady says hello.
Thank you.
She heard your voice. She goes, "That's Jeff." Losing my voice. I want to thank everyone for all the emails congratulating the Bag Lady and I last week for our 43rd anniversary. It's been a pleasure. I did want to mention, and it's funny that Jeff brought up Leon, but I know a lot of our customers received emails. We are a distributor for Sky Cruiser and actually working hand in hand with Leon who makes the ring that Jeff talked about for the safety. And if you go out to our site, you will see the new quad and trike that we have out. And it's a 4-cycle, 2-cylinder. And, you know, our goal is to bring the sport to people at a price people can afford. So if you're thinking about buying a quad or a trike of heavy, what I call a heavy quad or trike that uses almost a car seat, we also have the light versions for foot launch pilots that allow you to use your harness and your equipment you have now. But the product that we're really pushing is our quad. And we're putting out a quad 2-stroke for under $7,000. That's the full boat, the engine, 650 cc. It's just dynamic. Before you make a $10,000, $15,000 mistake, go take a look at it. And the idea behind that is we're not making a lot of money on this. We want to be able to let people buy products and still have the money to get the proper training. And that's key. We would love to force people that if you buy, you have to train. But Chris and I sat down and looked at the numbers and said, let's come up with a number of what the average cost for training is and make sure a person can buy a machine and still get qualified training. So that's the whole reason for this. That's why the price is so low. We're not making a lot of money. If people know Leon's in the same thought process as we are. We want to do this for the people to have the proper training. So go out and visit. We thank everyone. It's been a great year for us. We've been extremely busy. We thank you all. Just want to give a thumbs up to Rick Gorilla. Had a great poker run last week. Although I didn't fly, I was ground support. And I think our winner at the poker run is on tonight. That was Glenn Tusing. He won almost $1,000, I think. So great time. Rick did an absolute superb job. Eric Fairwell was there. 4 wins were there. Shannon Michaels. And it was just everybody chipped in. It was a great time. So want to give thumbs up to everyone. We again thank you for your support, and we do appreciate those emails giving us congratulations. Although we don't get back to everyone, we really do want to say thank you. So the big lady said if I didn't say this tonight, I'd be sleeping on the couch again.
Don't sleep on the couch in there. Okay, let's get back to business here. I want to talk a little bit more about what you were and keep on rolling with what you were saying about the torque issues. Now I kind of interrupted you on the lamels. What do you think about the lamels?
Well, it looks like if they're properly deployed, they work. I tried them at I think it was Beach Blast was the first time. And I looked at them askance thinking, that looks kind of sketchy. It looks like it would have too little flow and too inefficient. But when I tried them, they worked. As best I could tell, I wasn't torquing at all. Now, I've tried them on another machine, and they didn't have as much effect. So they do have to be deployed properly, which probably means out near the prop tips, fairly out. Just like the the propeller has most of its thrust in the last third. Well, that's probably where you ought to put those things. Another thing that I don't know, and I would love to test it, is do they decrease the thrust at all?
They have to.
It would seem like it.
Yeah, they have to.
So,
but it's probably
it may be small. I would. One thing I'm doing is I'm designing and I'm going to build a thrust tester, and I'll put it on YouTube. I'll put the whole design, including an animation of this thing, on YouTube for anybody to build it. Because I don't weld. Welders own the world. I don't own the world. I don't weld. So this thing's going to be out of angle iron and 2x4s. And I'm going to try to pull it apart with a car. But anyway.
Wait, what do you mean pull it apart with a car? To see how strong, see how strong it is?
Well, I figured it ought to be able to take 300 pounds,
right.
And I'm going to have a 600-pound strain gauge on it. So if I can get 300 pounds on it and it doesn't break, because, you're going to have an operator there squeezing the throttle with this thing staked into the ground. You don't want it to break on him.
Are you going to be in it?
No, I'm going to be, I don't know if you've seen London Ivy is almost my neighbor. He's got a thrust tester. It's real nice. It's all welded up.
Okay.
And, but I don't weld. So I got to build something that will be basically that strong to protect the operator. You want it to be that strong.
Yeah.
And still be able to handle a paramotor with 200 pounds of thrust with a little margin in there. So I would love to test it, and the other idea is that it's portable, that I can throw it. Ideally, I could put it in the airplane and take it somewhere with me if I go to a fly-in. And then let's test this stuff. Yeah, the tester.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because it'll come apart in two places. And I already have version 1 of this, and I sent the video to London, and he gave me some great ideas. And so I redesigned it, and I've got that animation done. I just haven't thrown it up on YouTube because I want to build it. Because you know how it is. You build something, you find out that, well, it didn't work quite like I expected. So anyway, let's test it. Let's get someone and test these lamels on how they work. It'd be nice. It's time. It's boring. But yeah, they have to be deployed well. And if they're deployed well, they seem to be very effective.
I don't want to volunteer anybody, but I know a couple people that are savvy. Kyle O. He's not in the chat right now, but I know Gyro Jeffro, he is a master. Gyro Jeffro is making an airplane right now in his garage. I'm not joking.
People are nuts. He
is wild. And he's in the chat right now. He actually, Tommy Anderson, thank you for your contribution. Donated $2 there back to back. He asked a question of you, and I want to go back to it real quick. He asked about, darn it, I got to go back real quick. He asked, it's right here. He said, I wonder if Jeff has ever heard of a paramotor plans. I bought a set back in 2000.
Is that the one that comes with a little book? If it's what I think it is, absolutely, I heard about it. And that was, to me, if it's what I'm thinking of, that comes with a little book, going up in a parachute, it was kind of a sham. I had been in the sport for a number of years, and I'd never seen one. And this guy was basically selling a dream, as best I could tell. And that's why when Jeff Baumgartner made real plans that real people actually built and flew, and I test flew it, that's why when Jeff was going to pull them down, I thought, no, I want to keep those available for people. And that was the Skybolt. So yeah, I know about it. I think it required welding. If I'm not pretty sure it required welding. So if you got to weld a paramotor, well, you're kind of ruling some people out.
Yeah. I do want to just real quick say thanks to all the sponsors: Nebraska PPG, Resurgence PPG. Appreciate you guys. Fly My PPG, Mike Cotter, he's in the chat. Also want to say thank you for Pararorange products and also PPG Smoke. We're going to do the giveaway in just a second. And then Tri-State Skywalkers, also iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. Appreciate all you guys. If you want to sponsor the show, or if you want your brand to be on here, reach out to me in an email and I'll tell you what the cost is, and we'll see if it's worth it to you. Most everybody has got a return on investment with the show and some. So thank you for supporting the sponsors, by the way. I do have the winner chicken dinner of the smoke machine is John Duncan. He's also known as Slow Days on YouTube. And so I know he actually flies with the guys out there in Florida. So congratulations, John. You won the smoke machine. Or if you don't want a smoke machine, you can get the float system for your paramotor or the chase cam or lamels. So it'll be your choice. And I'll send you an email soon. So congratulations, winner, chicken dinner. We are going to, if you're okay to go more than 7 p.m., Jeff, normally the show goes to 7, but if you're willing to stay on for a little while, I'm sure no one would complain.
If you can tolerate me, sure.
If I can tolerate you. I get so many people that are like, you talked to Jeff Goin? I'm like,
oh, brother.
I got his phone number.
Oh, brother.
My wife.
And
she
you didn't get too bored. Yay!
Yeah. You are a much desired person to have on the show for sure. The most recommended.
Well,
For
thank
sure.
you. Hopefully I can be useful.
Yeah, no, incredible. Seriously, incredible information. And it's every time you come on there, I learn something. And so I really appreciate that. There are, I'm reading the chat because there's some, looks like there's some noise going on in there. So I got my mom in the chat. She's harassing people.
There was a
Hi,
question.
Mom.
There was a question earlier that was asked about what's the longest that you've gone with a motor without having to do a repair on your motor.
What time is it?
7 on the dot.
Well, a couple hours. Yeah, no, I don't know. You know my statement about paramotor maintenance. You know how to tell when your paramotor is about to break when it's running.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a guy, I just talked to this guy, Lance Marzak. He's into mechanic and in maintenance, and he's great with all that. I'm not so good. I just flew a hang glider trike this morning, and I'm not great with pre-flight. But anyway, had I not done a pre-flight, my exhaust would have fallen off of the hang glider trike this morning.
Oh, wow.
That flight was, by the way, to test how soggy the runway was. So I have, the top 80 is pretty well dialed in, and I've probably gone a year. And the sad thing is that I probably didn't do things that I should have done within that year, and nothing happened on it. So, but you know what? If you can it seems like on average, you'll hear people say, "Oh man, I got 100 hours out of my paramotor without a problem." Well, that's cool. And what that means is that you just won the lottery, because reality is that if you've gone more than about 10 hours, that's maybe around average. If you've gone more than 20 hours, you're above average. And anything above that gets into diminishing likelihood of winning the lottery. And it's a result of we won a lot of power. We don't want it to weigh anything.
Do you think that maybe the way you run your machine would have a lot to do with that too?
Well, I do try to baby it to some degree, because I guess I'm aware of the fact that there's a lawnmower in our neighborhood that has less horsepower than my paramotor, and it weighs 300 pounds. So I get it. It's 80 cc's, and I'm asking a lot of it. I mean, the only time I go to full power is if I'm doing a bank around a bush or something. Because one of the coolest things about what we can do is that we can do a bank around a bush at full power, and the wing is 10 feet away from the bush. That's amazing to me, even still. So, yeah, I do try to baby it. I take off. I don't go to full power until I'm doing that turn. I may go to full power just to make sure I got the RPM on a run up or something. But even then, it's pretty rare, because you know what the consequence of me having an engine failure out here is? A longer walk. I mean, it's a 2,000-foot grass runway. If the engine quit, I can turn around in the space of the runway. So, yeah, it's a non-event. I mean, it's like breaking the motor. What RPMs do you want, and for how long? And my calculation is, okay, can I fly at that RPM? Yep. Well, then I'm going to fly. I'm going to sit on the ground and run that motor up. That's putting out flyable thrust. So I'll fly, or I'll run your break-in profile, whatever you want. But if it involves RPMs above what it takes to fly my little carcass, then I'm going to do it in the air. Sorry. Probably shouldn't have said that. I'm going to get in trouble, I'll bet. But anyway.
Carcass. It's hilarious. There was another question. Jim actually is getting into the air soon. He said, how can a person distinguish between good instructors / schools and questionable ones? Are there any ways of getting independent or impartial reports? Maybe from the FAA?
Definitely not from the FAA. The FAA does not Okay, this is distracting. What is so? That looks like the top of. Is this San Diego?
Yes, that's
Oh
Blossom.
yeah.
Blossom. You know the video
Helen's kiting. My phone has
airspace.
1%. I'm sorry, guys. So it's gonna die soon.
All right,
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
that's sick. You know it's sad because we all want to be there.
I know.
Right?
It's in my
That's why,
backyard.
that's why I did the whole flight. If you watch my little window.
Yep.
He's
Yeah, well,
rubbing it right in.
yeah, rub it in because I've been watching your little window with jealousy.
You know,
Yeah.
I got to fly this morning, or this afternoon, I should say.
Okay, cool.
I'm okay.
I have, there's a lot to my story this morning. It was a very eventful morning and involved almost having to fly no radio in the Bonanza into Lakeland. But anyway, I digress. Where were we?
We were talking about choosing a school or
choosing a school. That's a great question. The FAA definitely doesn't care. They don't know. I mean, in fact, there's some changes coming to USPPA probably that will probably reduce the number of schools, but that's only because we want to try to be a little more discerning. And some people won't like that, and that's fine. And they may do a great job, but they may not want to subject themselves to some assessment by their students and by the fact that, hey, really use the syllabus. If you're not going to use the syllabus, well, why are you a USPA school? So how to tell a school? There are some good ways. Number one, reputation. That's a little tougher. Number two, what are they selling? What are they emphasizing? Are they emphasizing, we're going to turn you into a capable pilot? That's what we're all about. When you leave our school, you won't leave our school until you have X number of flights, and we're going to try to do that efficiently. If that's their emphasis, it's a good start. If they're advertising free training in 50 states, how motivated are they going to be?
Right.
Well, I know the answer to that question, and your interests are not at the top of the chart. So if they're not charging roughly $2,500, it's tough to make it work. I did that instructor book, and oh my goodness, was that revealing. Instructing is really hard. Good instructing is really hard. So here's another way. If there's any way to do it, go watch. I don't know of an instructor that would turn you away. They may not let you out on the active field for very good reason. Oh, I've seen that go badly. People standing around a field where there's training going on, it's a bad combination. And you think, oh, well, they're way over there. Well, those of us who fly paramotors now have watched someone from way over there chop up a wing that's way over there. It's like, how did he get way over there and still, and why didn't he abort? It happens. Brain lock, fact of life. So anyway, don't expect that. And if you can talk to people, talk to students, ask them, well, what was the worst thing you saw? That's a good place. If you're going to go onto a forum, oh, here's another thing. Every instructor, even the best instructors, has their detractors. I wind up knowing a lot of instructors, and I talk to a lot of people. And if I were a teacher, if I were actively instructing, there would be people who say, dang, that Jeff Goin sucks. He did X, Y, and Z. I wind up hearing these reports like, I know that instructor. And on average, they do a really good job. But instructing is difficult. Personalities, they sometimes clash. And so it doesn't always go well. But on average, if you get good stories from someone, that's probably a really good clue. So you can see these are several methods that you can tell. If an instructor is turning out competent pilots, that's the best way to tell.
Very good. Yeah, we're in a whole different age now, whereas the sport started. I mean, you were still writing letters and snail mail to get information, and now it's instantaneous. You don't even have to talk to people. It's a text message. You wiggle your thumb, and you've got, hundreds of options. We're in the generation of options. So yeah, know that if I could answer in my finite wisdom in the sport, do your homework, and there's plenty of options. When it comes to paramotoring, especially free flight in San Diego, not so much, but it's growing, and we're in a great place in the sport where people are very passionate about it. There's an appetite. We have the safety is going up, and the interest is going up at the same time. I made a statement a little while ago. I don't know if it was on the show, but we were talking about how when there's an event where somebody gets hurt and it brings down the desire, and so you see less pilots after an accident, and it takes a little time for the dust to settle, and then ramps back up. And so part of the reason for the show, I felt an obligation to promote safety on a regular basis, and so.
Agreed. And you know, I just got an email because I get somewhat regular correspondence on things like this about the safety, and it had to do with an accident. I think I put it on Foot Flyer. Oh, the new website is up, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And this guy was a highly experienced guy in aviation. He's an airline captain, and he was looking at getting into paramotor, and he saw this accident, and it spooked him enough to reconsider. I don't know whether he's continuing or not, but it is a valid observation that safety has improved. We know what causes accidents, even though we have really poor data, and I encourage people to report accidents, even if the accident did not happen to you, but if you know about it, put it on there in a way that's educational, not accusatory, and we all learn.
Yeah, and if it was yours, it's best to come from you because of how intimate your details are, and that's usually where you find the mistakes. It's in those details. Whereas if it's secondhand information, some of those critical details are missing. If somebody just gets hurt and it's just vague and this is what happened and this is what the conditions were like and blah, 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 those details that, like, for example, Jeff, who I believe he's I think he's like second in charge for the San Diego Hang Gliding Paragliding Association, does an incredible work for the club. He wrote an article about having to throw a reserve, and the story is gripping. And especially if you're a free flight guy, incredible, where he lands in tiger country. He's far from any road. It was just a great story. And those details, man, I was reading it. I was in it. And I learned so much from that one little article. I don't know if he meant it to be something teaching wise. I feel like maybe he was just sharing his story, but it was incredible. And so I completely agree. Report your stories if you can do it. Let's go to Jeff's website. I'm going to screen share here. This is Foot Flyer, educational for ultra flyers.
If you go to safety accident reports.
Okay, is that up here on the top on the toolbar?
Yeah, top right, safety.
Okay. Boom. Risk and safety accident reports. Boom.
And this makes it really easy.
Oh, that's clean.
Swatted out of the sky. And that was the one where the fellow wrote to me, and he asked me to look at this and give my 2 cents. And there's people who could give their assessment. By the way, super kudos to this guy. If you watch that video, this guy has a really serious, could have easily been fatal accident. And then he's lying there all broken up, talking to the camera about what happened, because he didn't remember all of it, but what he did remember, he was reporting on. So it's like, okay, this is one tough dude.
Wow.
And by the way, thanks for having the you-know-whats to share it.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke. This looks really nice. I like the website. Very clean.
Thanks. It makes it a lot easier for me to write stuff quickly. Unfortunately, that means it doesn't get edited quite as quickly.
Yeah. So there was a question in the comments about this, and so he was asking about resources. Here it is. Jim, you were asking about some resources. Foot Flyer.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned, resources, if any of your listeners know about, like I have repair shops, I really don't want to work on two-stroke motors. So if there's somebody who I can pay, I'll fly the Boeing so they can work on the two-stroke motor, because they're going to be able to do it in an hour what probably takes me 3. And I don't like it very much. I'm not very good at it. So I have on the resources a list of people who have said they're willing to work on two-stroke motors for pay.
Oh, nice.
And if anybody knows of others who want, I just got one today, I got to add it, but then I would love to put them on there, because there are probably other people in my boat.
How can they get a hold of you? Is there a link in there?
Yeah, there's a link on the website on the contact page.
Perfect. Perfect. I love it. Well, we are going to wrap this up. Jeff, I would love to have you come on the show again very soon. And
absolutely. I can think of a possible topic along those lines about how bad is flying in turbulence.
Ooh, I love it.
What do I do about it?
Love it. I think that's a great idea. We'll bring it up, and I'll shoot you some dates, and then we'll get it rolling. I'm trying to get somebody from the X Alps. I won't say who, but they're very close to pulling the trigger. The only problem is they have to do it at 3 a.m. to do it live. And I said, I'm going to keep it. I've been pulled a few times to interview people from Europe, and it's like, oh, I want to so bad do a recorded show, but it just doesn't have the joy of the live chat and the, direct response. And so anyways, I'm considering it. What were you going to say?
That would be cool. No, I was just going to say, what, you don't want to get up at 3 a.m.? You don't think you'll have that many people on there?
No, it's not me.
I mean, you don't think you'll get many other people on there on the a live show at 3 a.m.?
I'm going to do the show regular time, but the person who is going to come on is in Austria. And so it's 3 a.m. at 6 for us.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to push them to do it. I don't want to be like, well, do you want to do it or no?
I see. Okay.
So if they want to come on the live show, they have to get up at 3 a.m. And people have done it. I've had a couple on the show that have done it, but I always feel bad, and I don't want to push them, but they want to be on the show. And so it's like, oh man. But anyways,
that'd be cool.
It's going to be a great show. And that's coming soon. I also talked to a couple other incredible pilots that are going to come on the show. And I'm just blown away. So thank you all for your contributions to the show. Thank you for your investment. If you're a Patreon supporter, thank you. Those who gave in the super chat, I heard there's a new feature on the super chat coming soon. I read something just as I was logging on, something about stickers or something like that. So look for that. I don't know what that means, but I thought that was kind of neat when they invented the super chat. And thank you for all you guys that do that, except for my wife, because that's my money that she's giving to YouTube, because they take 30%.
That's your burrito money.
My burrito money. Yeah. Like tormenting me. Yeah. Yankee in SC1 is trolling me in the chat. So I'm going to call this a wrap. We're going to go to the after show. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. And we'll see you next week. If I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in the air. And thanks again, Jeff. I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, look at my
pleasure.
wife. There she goes. She's still giving in the chat. I'm going to log off before it costs me any more money. You guys have a great night. Thank you again.